everyone, it's Todd Rosenfeld again, the Chief Learning Officer, Social Securities Training Corporation. Hope everyone is well. First and foremost, hoping you and your families are healthy during the COVID era. I wanted to provide an update on the testing environment, taking exam during this very challenging period. First of all, I've noticed, I live outside of New York City in the suburbs, and I noticed a lot of people, kids who, young adults who live in Manhattan and the surrounding areas have actually been spending time with their parents. I actually saw some people meeting and actually discussing some of the Finra exams while talking with their parents. Some of the parents who I'm friends with have mentioned this. I thought it was pretty interesting. One of the positives of the COVID era is people spending more time with their families, actually, and studying more during some of that downtime, less commuting, more studying time and other things. So wanted to provide an update. It's a very challenging period. We provided a lot of information over the past month or so since the COVID era started. So we've conducted a number of webinars, how to study during the period, how to take a test during the period. And then we also did some webinars concerning some of the content for the Series 7, the SIE, the 79, the Series 6, and they were very well received. Some of them had over 500 people. One had over 1,000. We've also done some testing of individuals in terms of the material, providing more information about content. And actually some good news, over the last few weeks, I've had a number of people take exams, doing very well. Maybe the extra study time helped. So just a little background. In the beginning of March, many of the test centers around the country, the Prometric test centers, closed, and there was not that much information on when they're going to reopen. And they did reopen at the beginning of May. Not all of them, but some of them, but in limited capacities. Some were down to about 25% of their normal volume. People were required to wear masks. That's one thing that happened. And there's a big backlog. Remember, for over almost 2 months, no one could even schedule an exam, let alone take a test. So there's a pretty big backlog. So a couple things that have happened, I thought we'd update everybody on that. First of all, the latest update from Finra as of today, the latest update was May 10th. And a few weeks earlier, Finra had announced that they were going to pilot, which they did, a remote testing option. And it was going to pilot that with a few firms, see how that went, then roll that out to the masses. So the objective was, beginning the middle of May, people were going to be allowed to, other people, the one that's more important of the pilot, they were going to be allowed to schedule the exam, to do this remote testing towards the end of May. And then at the beginning of June, they'd be able to start taking the remote exam. That's been postponed. So the pilot's still going on. Finra has not yet announced when they were going to start the remote testing for the masses. So I wanted to update a couple things on that as well. Let's talk about the remote testing first, and then I'll mention a couple of brief points also about the on-site testing, the Prometric test centers in the era of COVID. So first of all, the exams that you can take remotely are the SIE, the 6, the 7, the 63, 65, and 66. Those are the exams. The objective was, let's get those out first. And then after that, we will roll out all the remaining exams, as many as we can, maybe the 24, the 79, a few others, and see how that goes. So let's talk a little bit about the remote testing, good, the bad. So the remote testing, the way it kind of works is this. Prometric is using something called Prometric. It has a user guide that they give you, they provide you, but this is going to highlight some of the most important areas of that. And they are as follows. You can do it on a laptop or a desktop, doesn't matter. No dual monitors are permitted. So it's got to be one monitor, laptop or desktop. This is quite important. Make sure that you allow sufficient time to download their system. It's not going to take 5 minutes. It could take a while. People have also noticed that even during the test, their system went down and they had to re-enroll. So it has happened. Maybe that's the reason why they're extending the pilot, to make sure that doesn't happen again. So again, first and foremost, make sure that you allow sufficient time to download their information, okay? So if your exam is scheduled on a Wednesday at noon or a Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, make sure you give it at least a half an hour to an hour ahead of time to download the information. Now, when you take the test, when you begin the process, you're going to be asked to put your ID on front of the screen. There will be a proctor there, a person there to kind of guide you, which you can chat with. And what you need to do with your laptop or desktop is scan the room like you're in the actual exam center. They're going to tour your space. Okay, that's really, really important. Your face always has to be in the middle of the screen, and that's really important. They don't want any food or drink, papers around you, no calculators. There's a calculator on the screen. They want you using that calculator, not any type of calculator that you might have. So that's really important. Make sure you remember that. A couple of other things I thought I would mention. I repeat, there is no scratch paper allowed. There is an online computer, but no scratch paper is allowed. And that's really important because some of you taking the Series 7 have this thought process where I'm going to write down a bunch of formulas before I even start taking questions. You're not going to be permitted to do that. So if you're going to take the remote exam, practice to make sure that you're not using any scrap paper taking the actual exam. So make sure you practice that way. It will go a lot smoother. Number 2, very important, is you're not permitted to skip a question and come back to it. So with the regular Prometric exam centers, you can mark a question, record, and review. You cannot do that. Once you answer that question, you cannot go back to it. So those 2 things are the most important. That's different from the actual exam. So let me repeat that. No scratch paper whatsoever. And number 2, once you answer a question, you're locked. So make sure you practice using that same methodology. Okay, a couple of other things. They're really making sure that you don't cheat on this exam as if you were in the actual test center. That's the key. So your face is going to be in the middle of the screen. The proctor is going to be watching you at all times. That's why they want the middle. Now, the Series 7, because it's such a lengthy test, does permit you during the remote testing with a 10-minute break. It does happen with the Series 7. Wouldn't happen for the SIE. The time period is much shorter. And most of the other exams. But the 7, there is a 10-minute break. Now, on any of the exams, if you want to take a break, the clock does not stop and the screen is going to have to follow you. So make sure you're prepared to sit for that time period as if you were taking the actual exam. Okay? Again, they want to simulate the best they can of being able to take the exam in the Prometric test centers. Okay. So you're taking the exam remotely. And by the way, we've spoken to a number of people who have taken it and have been very successful. They passed the exam. Once they knew in advance about some of the differences, it was helpful. Even people that were taking the 7, they knew in advance that they weren't permitted to use scrap paper. That knowledge ahead of time, they said, was very important to make sure when they practiced taking the test, they had kind of a similar experience. A couple of other things. The grade, when you take the actual exam during the remote testing, you will receive your grade at the end, but on the screen that you passed, but you won't get written confirmation until a few days later. People are expecting instantaneously. When you're in the exam center, you get a printout right away. So that's a couple of things that are a little bit different. Now, my conversation on the remote testing was not mentioned to scare anyone. I mean, it's been a great experience for a lot of people. Great experiences. They were waiting so long to take the actual exam. They were happy just to get that over with. And remember, the second part I wanted to mention is the on-site testing. Yes, it is challenging. Don't get me wrong. Some test centers are not open to full capacity. Many are not. When they will open up to full capacity is anyone's guess. Hopefully over the summertime, things will open up a little bit more. Although a lot of people take exams during the summer. Many people have said they try to schedule an exam, let's say the 7th, the 24th, the SIE, because they want to go to a remote center. In some of the bigger, larger metropolitan areas, it's much more challenging than some of the less populated areas. We've had people from some of the cities scheduled to take the exam, even an hour outside the city. From the New York area, some people have gone to New Jersey, Connecticut. But again, people in that area want to test too. So it is a bit of a challenge. I think things will only get better as more centers open up to more capacity. And also, when they roll out the remote testing, that will get rid of some of the backlog. Because there is a pretty big backlog of people waiting to take the exam. Finra has been really great about extending the windows on the permissible time period, extending that 120-day period where you can schedule and take the test. So they've been really good about that. If there's more announcements, we'll update individuals. Make sure, STC has been doing a great job. We've had comments from a lot of our clients on our ability to keep people informed on what's going on in a clear, precise way. Now, on our website, stcusa.com, or on our mystc.com, which is our learning portal, on both of those, we do have 2 PDFs. One PDF of best practices on how to take the remote test, another one on how to take the exam in the test center. And the main difference in the test centers is 2 of them. One is you're required to wear a mask. So please make sure you bring a mask. That's really important. And number 2, prior to COVID, they would give you a whiteboard, like a mini whiteboard, you'd write on it. Now they're giving you physical scratch paper, 2 pieces. If you want more, you have to go back and they want to make sure they keep count, because when you leave the exam center, they're going to take that paper from you and the pen as well. But again, make sure that they're going to give you written scratch paper, which some people actually prefer. So those are the 2 big differences. They're going to loosen up to some degree. And we do have these 2 PDFs on both our systems that kind of give you the best practices. It's only a page each. Please make sure you read it. I think knowledge is key, knowing how to take the test in the actual test center. I mean, the last week or so, I've had great news from some people that I've been tutoring who have passed exams. They found the experience in the exam center to be, no different except for the masks. The remote testing, again, people find it a little bit challenging, but I think that will get better. I think the people who complained a little bit were not aware prior to what the experience was going to be. Those that we've spoken to that have taken the test remotely during this pilot with knowing in advance what to expect, they did not have any complaints. They were just so happy to finally get and schedule the exam. They were so happy about it. They were kind of so relieved, and they were like kind of pumped and motivated to take and pass the exam. So it's actually, it was a good feeling when you hear these people who were delayed a month or 2 months. They found our advice on what to do. Our previous podcast talked about what to do during that period of time when you're kind of delayed. You were psyched to take the test on a certain date. It got postponed for a month or so. What do you do? So we've been really good about that. I'm very proud of our staff and our company that have provided information both to the students and the clients. We've been conducting these quarterly business reviews with our larger clients, updating them what we're doing. We're hearing a lot of great things in terms of our ability to update the material, update the website in terms of what's going on. Of course, I need to add one more item and make sure that no one is confused on this. This has happened a couple of times in terms of testing. First of all financial services, every exam is considered essential. So you hear the term essential, non-essential. Certain exam centers are open or closed to essential or non-essential. All Finra licensing, all the MSRB, NASA, the NFA, all the possible exams one can take in financial services are all considered essential. Some people confuse that with the list of like the SIE, the 6, the 7, 63, 65, and 66 on remote. So one list has nothing to do with the other. So I want to make sure that's clear for everyone. The second thing is for the exam centers, some exam centers will be open for non-essential, which will limit the amount of space available for financial services. So again, planning is always important. Make sure if you want to take an exam in one of the test centers, you do it well in advance. Keep checking. And as we get more information on the remote testing and where that stands, we will certainly update you. And just one or two more things. Over the last couple of months, while there's been some downtime, many of us in the curriculum and the instructor division of STC have been updating the material. What I mean by updating the material, not so much for rules and regulations, not that much has changed that way, is there's certain things everyone always wants to do, but again, time permits. You make sure you update content, you might update the material to make sure it's relevant to the examination, but there's always some additional tweaking you want to do. Well, we've had the time to do it. We've added progress exams for the Series 910, the Series 86 and 87, which we didn't have before. We created a new module for our CE on regulation best interest. In fact, my next one of the future podcasts is going to be on regulation BI. We've redone some of the video products with our new graphic design. So really, really a great look. And again, having this time, not commuting, even not just the not commuting, is when we do a lot of live classes, we have to get there. It's 2 or 3 hours of our day, depending on where we live. We've been using a lot of that time to do virtual classes. We've been using WebEx for so long, it was easy for us to adapt. We've added classes, virtual WebEx classes, and people have loved that. So I'm an eternal optimist. I think things will get better, both for individuals as well as taking exams. I'd like to say that we've used this time well to update and make our content better. And again, please listen to this podcast carefully. It's not that long. And most importantly, study hard and good luck on your licensing exam. And I look forward to our next podcast. Thank you very much.